You know it's this. Take a perk and a talk of that shit. Money swallowed like sis. Did it perfect in the kid. Got a billion who sang on my head. Look up better put on the road I just spent. I know we got $1 million. The devil that shit ain't not cheaper than again.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to MangaMuse. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the second part of What If Naruto Meets Chaotic. Special note, this fanfic is written and a masterpiece of pyrohelixdrago on FANFICTIONnet. Do check and support the author too. Now smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. Next morning. Oh man, who punched me in the face? Naruto asked, his head ringing like a bell. That'd be about 7 people. Atacat said to him, leaning against the wall of Naruto's room. You alright? He asked him curiously. Well, my heart's still beating, so I'm not dead. Naruto said as he got up and stumbled. Wanna know a good way to work off a hangover? Atacat asked him. Let me guess, training. Naruto asked back, getting a nod. Few minutes later. He's training with the guard. Intress asked, finding that odd. I wanted to see him blow chunks, but you have got to see this. Atacat said to her as she followed him. He's gone through all the drills and look at him go, he said, seeing Tanguth was teaching the unit and all of the soldiers were done except Naruto. It's like he's not even human, he said as he had more respect for Naruto. Intress was wondering the same. It was one thing to beat a bunch of drunken fools, but to keep up with Tanguth's training was another, plus when they got him to the room they gave him, they cleaned his body of BLD but found no injuries. 1 hour later. Naruto ported to Chaotic and back as he went to Bodal to gather his ink and even took a scan of the little guy, telling him his wisdom was exceptionally high, which boosted his ego and shut him up for once. He took a shower and got a drone to deliver him some food to eat. He placed the ink in the corner intending to use it later and then ported back to Kira City. Right now Bodal was out and he wanted him to arrange the entire arsenal. Hell no, he said, looking around and spotted no one. He made about 10 clones and split them up while he made trips after scanning battle gear. Unknown to Naruto, Bodal was called out to leave him all alone. Intress was using a scope to see him from a distance. He's not a Mypedian, she said as the copies were solid as they were interacting with the gear. 1 week later. Naruto had to admit this job wasn't bad. His work was on point and Bodal had nothing to say, and he got his materials for the things he needed, and on his off hours he trained with Atacat. They made a deal. He'd get a scan of some of the overworld's top fighters if he completed his training tasks. Naruto took the challenge as he wanted to get back into fighting shape. After what happened at Chihur's castle with him being tested and at Van Blutz with him being blindsided by Takinom, he should have been more on guard and done better. Naruto was relaxing today, needing to rest his body from all the activity. Bodal was out on errands, so it was nice and quiet. I still need to find some metal to make kunai and shuriken, he thought to himself as he didn't like being naked. Naruto had been keeping an eye out for Spider. Apparently the creature was in the overworld dodging patrols, making his way to HAREM. At least it gives me time to stop the assassination, he thought to himself, as keeping track of Spider would give him some details to when he might attack the Danyan princess. Few hours later. You ready for today's spar, kid? Atacat asked Naruto, surprised by his stamina. He had thought Naruto would have been exhausted from all the training, but he was keeping pace with him. It was honestly impressive to see him keep going, and he was boosting troop morale as no one wanted to be bested by a human. Bring it on. Naruto said to him. I'd actually like a go at you myself. Intress said, surprising the two. Sweet, bring it on. Naruto said as they took positions and he began to stretch. Naruto, be careful. Atacat said seriously, I trained Intress since she was a pint-sized little brat. She is one of the overworld's best fighters, he said as Intress had gotten the better of him many times. Anything I should be concerned about? Naruto asked curiously. Intress has a special ability, it's called Nature Force. It boosts her stats a bit. She's learned to activate it and maintain it for quite a bit. It boosts all her attacks. Adacat said as Intress used this form sometimes on new recruits to give them a good scare, he felt he should at least warn Naruto about it beforehand. Naruto nodded as he finished his stretches. Everyone in the training area stopped what they were doing and were watching with interest as Naruto had become popular with the troops igniting their competitive nature. They had seen him train alongside them this past week and train with Adacat and Tanguth. They were wondering if he could handle a fight with Intress. The two charged one another. She uses her claws as her main weapons. Naruto thought as she did some slashing like one would expect from a cat with claws. He's not slow. Intress thought before using her tail to make Naruto trip. DMN. Naruto thought thinking fast using his hand to catch himself and push himself out allowing him to kick Intress right in her face. Many were shocked to see that no more than Intress. He knows how to recover well. Adacat thought to himself as what Naruto did was done masterfully well as one needed to know to recover quickly and smartly. If Naruto had fallen Intress would have pinned him ending the spar, but instead, he took control and used all he could to attack and not give Intress the chance for victory. Just who are you Naruto? He thought to himself as that was one of the many reasons he stuck around the child. He was unlike any and all humans he had met, he was skilled, he knew how to fight, he could fight with creatures on equal grounds. He had kept an eye out for more humans lately and even asked one who wanted a scan of him if they thought a human could take on a creature in pure combat. The answer was no. Sorry kitty, but I don't roll over that easy. Naruto said challengingly. Many looked at Naruto in shock as many had heard that Naruto called Intress old, but they never thought he'd be bold enough to keep making jabs at her. Vine snare. Intress said shooting vines Naruto's way, which he ducked under and reached up to grab them. Time to go for a ride. Naruto said as he began to spin Intress. Intress cut her connection to her vines and was sent back a bit. Time to get serious, she thought as she had an orange glow appear around her for a brief moment. Nature force. Naruto thought to himself as he kept his distance. Rock wave. Intress said sending a wave of rocks his way. Intress is certainly being rather aggressive. Tanguth said to Adacat. She's curious, like all of us, you can feel it too can't you? Adacat asked him knowing Tanguth was amongst the wisest creatures in Kiru. Tanguth nodded, he's human, but there is something that sets him apart from the others, he hides it well, but the skills he does use make him seem like us, he said as the strength, speed, and reactions were those of a soldier. Then what is he? Adacat asked him. Something unique. Tanguth said as he had his own suspicions as his sword of Kiyat was pulsing near Naruto. It was odd as this had never happened before. He had wondered if Naruto had a connection to the spirit lands. It was impossible, but so was the feeling his talisman was giving him. Need to take her down. Naruto thought dodging a fire attack. He pushed as much chakra as he could into his feet and dashed to Intress and soon he made contact before things went dark. Lake Kenaipa. What did you do? Najuran asked in annoyance as Intress, Adacat, and Tanguth brought a chaotic player here, but he seemed to be in pain and barely conscious. We were having a spar. Intress said explaining how when he made contact with her in Nature Force, she had lost energy and he had blacked out. Najuran was many things, but cruel was not one of them. He examined Naruto seeing nothing physically wrong with him, except one thing, his eyes seemed to be gaining orange eyeshadow Nature Force, he thought as it was a form Intress had gained through numerous training in the Forest of Life. She had trained there so much the very location seemed to have given her a boon. Instead of needing to return to use this boon she could activate it whenever she wished. It was a mystery even now as no one knew the particulars of why certain creatures gained certain abilities at certain locations, but Intress was the first to keep her ability no matter where she was. This boy has somehow absorbed the energy of Nature Force, he said to them. Nature Force has never been harmful to me, why is it doing this to him? Intress asked wondering how this was happening. To my knowledge, a creature, or in this case a human has never taken a special ability, but the energy should have dissipated and if taken Intress should not have Nature Force, but I assume that's not the case. Najuran asked them knowing their first instinct would have been to use music on Intress and Naruto. Intress nodded entering Nature Force to prove it. So what happened? Tanguy asked, wondering what exactly happened. The boy's body is keeping nature force within and it is dash. Najirin was saying till they all saw a blue sphere form in Naruto's hand and he slammed it down, causing a huge explosion. The group was a bit dazed from the explosion and saw Naruto was gone. What in the name of the Kothika was that? Najirin asked them. He's human, but we knew he was different from the chaotic players somehow, we didn't know he could do attacks. Atacat said to him. Najirin found this to be odd, he is not in his right mind, we must find him before he damages something, he said, having a few things that were not meant to be damaged. They all split up to find him. With Naruto. What the hell is wrong with me? Naruto thought, feeling both good and bad at the same time. He leaned on the wall and looked in a mirror on the wall, his eyes were shifting from blue to red and slitted to toad. He didn't know what was happening, but it wasn't good as far as he could tell. Kid, there you are. Atacat said, seeing Naruto. Naruto looked at Atacat and his mind began to haze. Atacat saw Naruto standing still and approached him. Did he black out? He thought before jumping out the way as Naruto tried to slash him. He looked at Naruto and was shocked. He saw red slitted eyes and claws, but the thing he noticed most was Naruto looked more creature-like and bloodthirsty, even his whiskers were more feral. Naruto growled as he looked at Atacat and let out a roar. Najirin's entire temple shook violently as the sound of a roar was heard. Okay, I need to subdue him, could use backup though, and a song of stasis wouldn't hurt. Atacat thought before he ran Naruto hot on his tail. Run to the vault, he said, seeing Intress and Tanguy down the hall. Intress and Tanguy saw what he was running from and were shocked, but ran to the vault. Najirin, cast a song of stasis, now. Tanguy said loudly. They closed in on the vault, but Naruto was closing in on them. When they made it inside, Najirin was holding the music. Song of Stasis. Najirin said, casting it the minute the three were clear from Naruto. I must say, I have never encountered something like this, he said, seeing the state Naruto was in. Time for answers, he said as a tendril of blue energy shot from his mind and into Naruto's. This does not bode well. Najirin thought as a mindscape reflected an individual. A sewer was not a place he expected to be. Interesting, this seems more complex than anything a child his age should have. Not even I had a mindscape this well built when I was a simple muge, he thought to himself before stopping. Seeing a large cage, he walked forward then stopped. A war beast, he said in complete shock. I'd be careful making inaccurate claims about me, old man, the Ninetail said from inside his cage. That connection works two ways, he said as Najirin forced his way in. It left his mind vulnerable to be read as well. Najirin felt so much bloodlust and anger, it was suffocating. He decided to walk away. I need to learn more about the boy, he thought, as being near that being was not a wise idea. Najirin took a turn looking for the memories. The deeper he went the more he learned he had overstepped. Lake Kenaipa. Najirin shot back, falling to the floor, the music becoming undone and Naruto becoming unconscious. Few minutes later. Najirin was having some tea to calm his nerves, but the things he witnessed in that boy's head were vile, cruel, and full of pain. He explained what he could and what he thought he should reveal, as the boy had sensitive information he wasn't willing to part with, as the child had been through enough. Atacat felt a bit guilty as the boy was trained by harsher standards than they ever were. Being a warrior was a choice, but his choice seemed to have been appropriated by others. He was pushed to be as strong as he was. Tanguy was angry about the abuse the child suffered. He hated that a child was so easily abused mentally and physically. It made him sick. Intress felt sad. She herself was an orphan, having lost her family in this war. It was a common story, but it didn't hurt any less. She felt bad being so suspicious of Naruto, and having found out this way, it left a bitter taste in her mouth. While they all had varying opinions on why they felt the way they did, their minds were still focused on Naruto being from another world and having powers similar to creatures. We'll have to tell Maxer when he returns. Intress said to the others, who nodded. I think your little escapades will be enough proof. Najirin said to them, having seen the memories that lead to this. Atacat and Intress had the decency to look ashamed for very different reasons. So Najirin, the child? Tanguy asked as Naruto was on a nearby bed. He should awaken soon, chasing you down tired him out. Nijirin said to them, finding it funny they ran from a child. Naruto groaned as he felt sick. "DMN it Atacat," he said, grabbing his head. "Why am I the one you blame?" Atacat said in indignation. "Because a headache could only be this annoying if you were somehow involved," Naruto said to him. Intress and Tanguth bellowed with laughter hearing that snarky remark. Even Nijirin cracked a smile under his beard. Atacat looked downcast at that remark. Few minutes later. "I swear, mind readers, I need protection from that," Naruto said to himself. "Believe it or not, your mind is well shielded," Nijirin said as he explained what he told the others. Naruto catching on, he told them some things, but not everything. "Reading a person's thoughts is one thing, affecting them mentally is another thing entirely," he said, as the Nine Tails would be enough to protect Naruto from attacks like delirium and others of its nature. "They were not told of your secrets, merely where you came from and your power," he said to him. "Why keep my secret?" Naruto asked him as Nijirin explained that he went feral and tried to attack them. "Because you have a right to privacy and you have not made yourself an enemy of the overworld," Nijirin said, having seen what he did to Van Blut. "How are you going to handle Spider?" he asked him, as if the overworld got involved things would get messy politically and questions would be asked. "He plans to come to the overworld on order from Chire. After that he's going to the Danians. I'm working for Bodil in the meantime to keep my ear on the ground. Spider has been known to steal battle gear for Ulmer to learn and replicate," Naruto said to him as Nijirin nodded. "A wise strategy, but you neglect to mention something. If you fail in Kiru, what will you do then?" Nijirin asked him curiously, as Spider had made more escapes than Blazer did in the underworld. "I'll have to go to the Danian hive in Mount Pillar," Naruto said as Nijirin eyed him. "You could die," Nijirin said, as that was the simple truth. "We can all die," Naruto said to him, as that was life. "Be safe then in your efforts, but come," Nijirin said as he teleported them to his vault. "Guess you saw the memories with Kopand, right?" Naruto asked as Nijirin nodded. "Yes, and Kopand, while a constant thorn trying to steal my mujiks, he is no less a skilled muge," Nijirin said to him. "Mujiks are more than just what people seem to think they are. When you come near a mujik they shine brighter," he said as he made a few mujik flow close to Naruto. "This is a result of your power. You seem to harmonize with the mujik no matter the type," he said to him, as it was truly interesting. "Here at Lake Kenaipa I have learned to lower the cost of mujik that would normally require more than one," he said to him. "So what does that mean, for me and mujik?" Naruto asked, trying to figure it out since Kopand. "Your chakra is said to amplify abilities from your memories to increase certain actions and attacks, even physical ones, so it might mean your chakra can increase the power of mujik and even battle gear," Nijirin said, never taking much of an interest in battle gear, but he knew enough. "But it might not work so well with creatures," Naruto said, his body feeling like it was still in knots from Intress nature force. "Perhaps or perhaps not," Nijirin said as he showed Naruto his own memories. "Your eye became toad-like, similar to your former summons. It might mean the connection you had with them went even deeper and you possess an ability like nature force," he said, having taken a guess at it. Naruto was silent, as summoning the toads was amongst the first things he tried at Prexer Chasm. There was nothing, not even a tadpole. No matter how much chakra he put in, he got nothing but smoke. "You are not alone in discovering about yourself, child. Many creatures have that problem, some not even sure where to begin," Nijirin said, as the way of a muge, warrior, elementalist, and so on was long and hard. Some had talent for their area of expertise early on, others not so lucky. "Hey, can I ask something?" Naruto asked, getting a nod from Nijirin. "How are musicians made?" he asked him curiously, as he always wondered about that, as some locations had one and some creatures had multiple. Kopand had restored his almost instantly. "A musician is made through meditation and learning to use one's energy beyond attacks. When a creature is able to reach a more spiritual level, they are able to form a musician inside themselves. It takes time and one needs a strong body to contain them as well, similar to your chakra," Nijirin said to him. Naruto was following, as it seemed a musician was purely spiritual, but a person could only use them if their body could handle the strain to hold the musician or musicians in some cases. Nijiran teleported them back. The others should be waiting for you outside. Do forgive them for being impatient, he said, as they were a lot more than that, as they truly emulated felines, always curious. He had seen each of them grow up, or at least as much as they could, as they still got in the same amount of trouble. Naruto raised a brow at that before opening the door, seeing the three cat creatures pounce at him. Next day, Naruto went to Chaotic to get some rest and went back to Kiru and went to the arsenal. Naruto, Bodal said, smiling at him. And now the strangeness. Naruto thought to himself, as Bodal rarely smiled unless he was being cocky or overconfident, and to top it off his smile seemed strained. Bodal was terrified out of his mind, because Tanguth, Atacat, and Intress made sure that Bodal wouldn't give Naruto a hard time. After their blunder in what happened to him, they decided that Naruto earned the right to have things be a little more calming for him, and making sure Bodal didn't abuse his authority on him one way or another. Later that day, Naruto was on edge. Every hair on his body was standing up on end. He left the armory when it was dark and walked down an abandoned alley. "Hello Naruto Uzumaki," a voice with a noticeable echo said. "Mind explaining who you are? You've been on me all day." Naruto said, as he didn't like being followed, especially when the person following him was perfectly hidden. Blue light started to form, taking on a form of what seemed like a blue specter. Great. Naruto thought, having seen creatures like this with ghostly forms, it did nothing for his fears, and it made him nervous because certain attacks didn't work on them. Still afraid of ghosts? The ghosts asked him. "I swear this mind-reading CRP is getting old." Naruto said, as once was enough with Nijiran. "I didn't read your mind, Naruto, you told me, or you will," the ghost said to him, sounding amused. "Okay." Naruto said, not following that or understood how it made sense. "My name is Raiden." Raiden said calmly, "And I need your help," he said to him. Naruto rose an eyebrow. "You were not part of this timeline." Raiden said to him, "Something powerful is at play, I am unsure, but you being here changes everything," he said to him. "Timeline?" Naruto asked, not following. "I have been everyone I could find, in none were you there." Raiden said to him, "I have seen the past, present, and many futures," he said to him, "but my present has changed because you are here. In all my travels I have never met you or seen you interact with any of those I know," he said to him. "Time travel? You've traveled through time?" Naruto asked, as that was kind of shocking. "Yes, perhaps I am in an alternate timeline, or perhaps I have changed something, but it does not matter, as you five are Parem's best hope." Raiden said to him, making 4 images appear. Naruto saw Tom, Kaz, Peyton, and Sarah. These 4 held critical roles in the every timeline, and now so do you. Raiden said to him. "Okay, listen Raiden, I don't understand time travel, I barely got it watching it with Kit." Naruto said, as Kit tried to keep him informed of modern things, like movies, technology, and music, but this still went over his head. "I don't buy into fate, it's CRP, he said to him. "You are correct." Raiden said to him, "No future is set in stone, the past however is fluid or has already occurred to the point you or I cannot change it, and therefore we must live with it," he said to him, seeing Naruto relax. "Okay, I am lost, why tell me all of this, and you've said we've already met, how can you have met me when you said I never existed?" Naruto asked, as a ninja he saw way too many holes in this story, and he knew about him and his friends. "Because Naruto, you have the ability to change everything, or make things different, believe it." Raiden said, making Naruto take a step back. Hearing that, "Let us go," he said to him, as he and Naruto were enveloped in blue light. "Oh great, now where am I now?" Naruto asked, not seeing Raiden anywhere, and saw a giant rock with many holes in it. "The hell am I?" he thought to himself, taking out his scanner and scanning the location. "Kurvok Mound," he said, as he never heard of this location before, but he soon began to feel odd. "Naruto," a female voice said, calling him from inside the mound. "Okay, I've seen Fear Valley enough to know this is not real." Naruto said before he heard giggling. "Whatever the hell you are, I know you're not real," he said, about to port out. Poor Naruto, are you gonna run away like Sasuke did?" the voice said, making Naruto's blood run cold. he had mentioned Sasuke's name to only Ariak, Ursus, and Krellin. "Come find me," she said, her voice echoing in the mound. "She's baiting you." Naruto thought to himself, repeating that over and over again, but eventually, he gave in. Naruto entered the mound and felt, odd, no wind. He thought, finding that odd as this place had so many holes in it, he should have been able to feel a breeze. Naruto picked up some stones and chose some pathways at random and threw a stone through each. He heard one land, nothing from the next one, and the final one, from a completely different direction. What is this place, a maze? He thought to himself, wondering if each tunnel was some kind of portal or illusion. He did the genjutsu release, but so far everything still seemed the same. I need to pick a path and figure this out, he thought to himself, choosing to go forward. Well, this is different, he thought to himself, seeing what looked like the Amazon. Did I get transported? He thought, making a call, and saw it didn't even go through. Scanners are a unique piece of technology. They don't fail to communicate, they are made to get past the limits in HAREM. Kid had once told him when he wondered what the limits to the scanner were in comparison to other devices he had seen and used, like radios. Naruto tried his friends and then some other players. All calls didn't go through. He was brought out of his thoughts seeing a Mypedian appear, or at least what looked like a Mypedian. It seemed savage and the fur made it look less reptilian, but the invisibility, especially when more started to appear. 5 minutes later. "Okay, where the hell am I?" Naruto said in frustration till something clicked. "Raiden, SHT, did I get sent to the past?" he asked himself, as Raiden was talking about time travel and these creatures seemed less than civilized. Why all of this, and what the hell was that voice, he said as he hated all the things not making sense. Naruto needed to piece this all together, but then something caught his eye, something flying in the air. "Oh, no way in hell," he said to himself, hoping he was seeing things. He looked at the mound and needed to know he'd find it. He left a shadow clone there and hoped it would be a good enough marker. 30 minutes later. Naruto made it to a mountain that seemed hollowed out. "I am seeing things," he thought to himself. Naruto was in fact not seeing things. He made it to the top and saw what looked like a throne room, by caveman standards, and sitting upon the throne was Van Blut. He seemed similar to when he last saw him, but also worn down. Maybe a scan will tell me more, he thought, needing to be careful. Naruto climbed the walls, careful not to be seen by Van Blut. He got behind him dangerously so and began to scan him, alerting the creature. "A chaotic player," Van Blut said, looking around. Naruto disappeared the moment he got a scan of Van Blut. "Van Blut, servant of FUNN," he thought, never hearing that name before. He noticed all of Van Blut's stats seemed less than the first scan he got. Great, he's from the future and stuck in the past, he thought to himself, having seen this play out. Since the present seemed intact, it meant Van Blut probably died here, but he decided to take a look around instead, as Van Blut was still a little crazy. Naruto decided to look around to see if he could find anything. He had to give Van Blut one thing he did great: interior. He hollowed out a mountain and made it his base. He found nothing of interest, but did see bones, a lot of bones from creatures the same size as Van Blut. Naruto caught the smell of something awful. Wait, this smell, he thought, having smelt it before. It smelt like Copond and Najiran's labs. Music, he thought, not thinking Van Blut had that kind of knowledge. He found the source of the smell and was shocked beyond all things. "Najiran?" he asked in complete shock. "Naruto?" the man said to him in confusion. "Najiran, how are you here? How are you, young?" Naruto asked, as Najiran definitely identified him and knew him. "Naruto, it is me, Jack." Jack said to him, "I guess I do look like my father with my beard," he said to him. "How are you here?" Naruto asked, wondering how misplaced he was given Naruto hadn't met him, but if Jack met him. "I really need to ask Krellin to explain this," he thought to himself, as this time travel nonsense was getting the better of him. "After you had left with your friends, I grew curious of the location you mentioned. I studied it and it sent me here, but I soon discovered I was not alone. I soon found that beast with wings. He as well thought I was my father and put me to work making music. He wanted a way to go back to the future, as this time was not ideal and he did not have his army," he said to him. Naruto saw an old school chain connected to Jack. He broke it easily with a rasengan, using it to grind it into nothing, then dispelling it in order for it to not explode and alert Van Blut. "Wait," Jack said, igniting the music pots. "They'll explode when we're long gone," he said to him as they ran. 1 hour later. You pages. Naruto said to Raiden, what the hell is this, what kinda messed up time PRD is this, he asked him. A place where the past ventured only to be followed by the future. Raiden said to him. That makes absolutely no sense, do you understand him? Naruto asked of Jack. Perhaps, I believe Muges are forbidden from knowingly tampering with time except the present. Of Jack said as he wasn't sure time traveling was still done in extremely rare cases such as Raiden himself apparently, I think he meant was that because I opened a portal to now, Van Blut must have come through the same one, he said wondering how that was. Is that what I am saying? Raiden asked him. Okay F this guy, I'm taking you to nature and then going the hell home. Naruto said to him, to think I was afraid of ghosts, they turn out to be smart asses, he said to him walking with F Jack. It was nice meeting you Naruto. Raiden said to him not turning around. Naruto went back the way they came and then saw Raiden outside. Welcome back. Raiden said to them. I hate you. Naruto said as he took a swing and guessed the Raiden they had just walked away from was Raiden's past self. Of Jack wait here, he said porting away. Of Jack waited taking in his surroundings seeing nothing but a boneyard and not a minute later Naruto was back as he scanned Raiden and left again, then another minute later and he came back. I told Nature and he's gonna meet us here. Naruto said as they sat there and waited a few moments, he uploaded all of his scans between trips, I'm gonna crack that mind open Raiden, he said to him, and if I learn. It was you pretending to be that girl, I will beat you to death, somehow, he said to him. What girl? Raiden asked him. Naruto became tense as if Raiden didn't know what he was talking about he felt slightly afraid, his BLD ran cold when he heard the giggling again, but the others noticed it as well they looked inside to see a girl with red hair and a glowing purple aura around her, she looked Naruto's age. I miss you Naruto the girl said before blowing a kiss and disappearing out of thin air. For my peace of mind, please tell me you saw her. Naruto asked not taking his eyes off the spot where the girl vanished. Indeed. Raiden said to him. I saw her. Of Jack said to him wondering what she was. This time travel SHT I swear. Naruto said needing a drink. They were interrupted when a blue comet struck the ground. F father. Of Jack said see his father is so old. It is you. Najurin said to him unable to believe this. Raiden not being one for an emotional scene chose to look at possible apocalyptic futures instead of being here. Listen I've had a long day, I'm gonna go home and sleep a headache away. Naruto said saying his farewells to the father-son duo. Chaotic. Great. Naruto thought looking at his newest Van Blut scan, he risked a lot keeping this, but if he didn't he'd have missed something important. Raiden came to him because he and his friends impacted Harem as a whole, it meant many things, like they may have saved it, they may have caused a catastrophe or something worse. Raiden believed the future could be changed and it always will, that made him feel better. He put the scan away choosing not to think about it. Underworld City next day. Chaya had seen many things, but his right hand on the floor laughing so hard tears came out of her eyes was new. Did I walk in on some kind of fight? He asked his other right hand Ajitos. No, my lord apparently Naruto was regaling Takinom of his adventures in the overworld, apparently, he became intoxicated in the overworld and got into an all-out brawl with many of its top fighters. Ajitos said explaining who Naruto described. Chaya smiled, okay but why is she laughing, he asked as while amusing he didn't see why she was busting a gut. Apparently this one in his intoxicated state insulted Intress calling her old and kitty. Ajitos said as Chaya joined in the laughter. 10 minutes later. This is what being a parent must feel like. Chaya said as Naruto blew up Gojo's tower in Van Blut's face, he picked a fight with a bunch of overworlders and won, and he even had the guts to insult Maxer's right hand. If he disrespects Maxer or kills Van Blut I will make him my successor. He thought as he could die happy knowing someone stuck it to Maxer or killed Van Blut. So why did you come here? Ajitos asked Naruto as Takinom and Chaya were still chuckling a bit. I was wondering if I could get a scan of a flux bauble. Naruto asked him. Chire straightened up as this became business. Sure, he said as scanning it was not going to be trouble, but you're gonna earn it. I want to see you battle, and no holding back kid, I want to see this. What was it again? He asked one of his advisors. Chakra. Ajitos and Takinom said as they knew their lord while a tactical genius did often blank out in teaching moments. Right that, I wanna see you fight an underworlder. Chire said as if Naruto had fought a bunch of overworlders then it was very likely the overworld knew or caught a glimpse of his powers. Alright, I won't hold back. Naruto said as Chire chuckled. We'll make an underworlder out of you yet. Chire said to him. Underworld arena. So who'd you pick? Chire asked Ajitos having left the decision up to him. Chire got his answer as a well-known underworlder entered the arena. This is my opponent. Rothar said very insulted seeing a human before him. I was told this was to test a potential asset and not to kill them, but a chaotic player, he said angrily. That's insulting. Naruto said to him. Of course it is, you, a potential asset, please this is a joke. Rothar said to him annoyed by this. What no, I meant them sending you in here without the intent to kill me. Chire, what do I look like to you? An amateur, tell him he can go all out. Naruto said to Chire. He has guts, I'll give him that. Takinom said as she herself had faced Rothar, he was a formidable opponent, some even compared his strength to that of Chire. If we see them is the real question. Ajitos said as they watched carefully. Rothar was curious as to why Chire was giving him the okay. Humans had no abilities to his knowledge, and this human had no battle gear. You know, it has been a year since I've had an opponent. Naruto said as he cracked his bones. Let's see if you can help me shake the rust off, he said, succeeding in angering his opponent. Rothar charged at Naruto and saw he wasn't moving. He didn't care. He smiled upon making contact, but as he pushed he noticed he came to a halt and that he was being lifted up. You got a lot of power, big guy, let's see how well you do with flying. Naruto said having sent him a good distance away. Rothar staggered as he got up wondering what the Kothaka just happened. Man, you're heavy. Naruto said as he stretched, but you better get serious or my next attack will finish you, he said to him seriously. Think he's bluffing? Chire asked his advisors. From what we've seen and he's told us, he doesn't bluff, sir. Takinom said to him as lying was one thing, but bluffing not so much. You make it sound like he is intelligent enough to bluff. Ajitos said long deciding a while ago that Naruto was quite literally insane. Naruto knew Intress knew about his clones so he may as well go all in. He made 5 clones and they all ran around Rothar. Rothar believed the clones were illusions somehow and that only one was real. He was soon proven wrong. Naruto, the clones yelled in unison. Uzumaki barrage, the original Naruto said holding a rasengan, striking it on Rothar's back, making him scream in pain before he was launched to the ground and soon hit the Colosseum wall. Chire's castle. I'm disappointed. Chire said as everyone looked at him in surprise as that fight was brutal. Naruto won decisively and effectively, and to top it off, he humiliated his opponent. You should have done all that to Van Blut, he said, thinking Van Blut would be in a myriad of pain like Rothar currently was, but given Van Blut was less fit, he would have died, with all his bones broken. Does he only think about causing pain to his enemies? Naruto asked Ajitos. I am not at liberty to answer that question. Ajitos said as he felt Chire would not like his answer. Next time you face Van Blut, do that to him and make him hurt. Chire said, wanting to be rid of the pest, but it wouldn't look good if he killed his subordinates without just cause, or worse made that idiot a martyr for someone to follow, but if someone else did it, his hands were clean. Naruto nodded, having no problems with that. Ulmer's castle. I swear, this place. Takinom said, never liking coming here as Ulmer was truly a mad scientist as the things here were next level. Naruto was given Takinom as his guide as he never went to Ulmer's castle. He knew it was a place where Chire had battle gear made, if not done by Kaiban. Takinom watched him scan the inside and poured out only to come back not a minute later. Sorry, but a good thief knows when to take the easy way in. Naruto said to her. Takinom could respect that as while it took skill to break into a place. It was clever and underhanded to have a skeleton key to get inside. Omer, she said, knowing he was not crazy enough to keep her waiting. There was a small explosion as he came rushing in. Yes, Takinom? Omer asked nervously. I'm here to inspect the flux bauble, get it now. Takinom said, seeing his nervous. It had better be here, she said in a low growl, as if it had been stolen and he didn't report it, she'd set his castle on fire. It's here. Omer said nervously as he brought them to his workstation and they saw the flux bauble. What happened to it? Takinom said, seeing the golden sphere cage now had silver bars around it and the glowing orb which was usually black seemed to be black and purple. Looks different. Naruto thought to himself, as the sphere was often referred to being like a black hole, now it looked even more so. I've been experimenting on the flux bauble, trying to see if I could gain control of where it went or if the wielder in possession of it could choose what location they went to. Omer said to her. Is it working? Takinom asked him, as if Omer had even minor success it could mean that they had more control of this very powerful battle gear, it would make attacks simpler and escapes easier. I haven't tested it, and even if I did, if the creature using it were to perish, so would the battle gear. Omer said to her, unsure of how or who to test this battle gear on. Naruto scanned it and it basically had the same information. Great, all this time wasted. Omer said, not liking that he had failed with this battle gear. So how does it work anyway? Naruto asked them, picking it up. Be careful, it is a gentle battle gear, you can flux without meaning to. Takinom said as Naruto placed it down. They were silenced when an explosion occurred. How many fires does he start? Naruto asked her curiously. His personality was reason alone for him to be given this castle. Why do you think Van Blut rules Gojo's tower? It is the furthest location from Chire. Takinom said as Omer was only kept in the city because Chire understood his genius. Well, I got my scan, should we help? Naruto asked, seeing some fire spread. I don't live here. Takinom said as Naruto gave her a blank look as she rolled her eyes. The fire was soon put out. Thank you. Omer said, neutrally used to humans making a mess, not helping them clean up. I'm going to try seeing if I can alter the flux bauble again. Human, you may come back in a few days to check my progress, he said, still not used to this. Now where is it? He asked as the box was empty. Right here, Omer, an annoying and quite possibly fake accent said as they all saw a human wearing pink sunglasses. Clay. Naruto said in annoyance, having run into him in the past. Naruto felt sick even seeing him, as this chaotic player was vile and horrid. He stole from other chaotic players just arriving for the first time, and then sent them to locations where death was likely and without their decks, often having to go out and try to make up for their lost cards, which was just as deadly. Hello Mr. Pathetic, surprised you came after such a lovely piece of gear. Clay said, scanning it. Can you blast him? Naruto asked curiously. If I do, the bauble goes off, and with it not being tested, I'd rather not end up somewhere without air. Takinom said as making a shot meant they may end up who knows where. Omer was nervous as he was always the one who assigned guinea pigs. He never wanted to be one, so he ran for the door. Coward. Takinom thought to herself as she would remember this. I wonder where this will send you. Clay said, tossing it in the air in front of the two as he poured it out. Don't let it hit the ground. Takinom said as she and Naruto dashed to catch it, as if it hit the ground it was more than likely to activate. Naruto caught it, but the flux bauble began to glow. What's happening? He said in panic. Is it his chakra? Takinom thought in panic as they saw how it affected music. She was wondering if it was sending the battle gear into overdrive. Forest of Life. Naruto and Takinom opened their eyes and saw the jungle. Oh, thank Chire. Takinom said in relief. You were thinking of this place? She asked, wondering if he had a target, cause if he did they could take it back to the underworld. I didn't think of this place. Naruto said as besides being the first place he came to in HAREM, he didn't know why they came here. Wait a second, he thought, remembering Nadrin mentioning this was the place Intress acquired nature force, the power that once entered his body. He wondered if this was why they came here. Well, at least I can pester Zalik on the way back. Takinom said as it would drive the bug man mad that she got past the overworld's ever-watchful guard. Blaze Barrage, a familiar voice to both said as an attack struck Takinom. Intress. Takinom said as this was perfect. Did this thing lock onto Intress? Naruto thought, now wondering if SHE was why they were here. Naruto, why are you with this gargoyle? Intress said in annoyance, seeing the flux bauble in his hands. So that's how you got here, she said, looking at Takinom, as it was common for the other tribes to try using flux baubles for covert missions or raids or other such tasks. It was like winning the lottery if you got to where you wanted or even remotely close. To be fair, we didn't mean to come here, but I am so glad I did. I'll have to thank that chaotic player before I rip out his spine. Takinom said as she and Intress battled. Before any of them knew it, they were at the Riverlands. Intress saw this as a sign of good luck as she blasted water at Takinom's face. Takinom glared Naruto's way but was shocked as he wasn't holding the flux bauble. It was on the floor and still fluxing them. Bulmer said he was still experimenting on it. It must be unstable, she thought in annoyance. They were soon in the Mypedian desert. How do I shut this off? Naruto asked, already sick of it. Neither the second in command to the overworld nor underworld knew that. They did know that destroying this battle gear was usually a one-way ticket, as when it exploded it fluxed. Yes. Takinom said as they had fluxed to the lava pond, meaning her attacks were stronger. The trips were soon becoming shorter as they were now in Fear Valley. Intress Nature Force gave her the deciding edge. Well, we can all die, yet those two are trying to kill each other. Naruto thought as they'd take this all over HAREM if they could. The trips were becoming shorter from what he could guess, and it didn't look good. Crack. That sound got everyone's attention as they looked at the sphere of the battle gear and saw it crack. Oh no, they all thought before vanishing altogether. The hell? Naruto thought to himself as he saw they were on some island, Takinom and Intress both thankfully unconscious. He found the flux bauble and saw it was still working as the vortex in the sphere was ever present, but the crack made him feel concern. He could port back to chaotic, but Intress and Takinom were stuck here. The hell even is here? He thought to himself, taking a quick scan. Illusion Island. He asked no one in particular. He saw that non-elemental attacks were stronger here. He wondered if that was why it was called that. He ported to chaotic and packed some food. Glad the robots provided that sort of thing, and then uploaded the location to his deck for emergencies. He then ported back, both women still unconscious. 2 hours later. Do you have to eat with no manners? Intress asked as she and Takinom called a temporary truce as they were stuck on some island neither had heard about. Naruto had treated their injuries and bandaged them up nicely. Naruto had cooked them ramen, a dish he said that went well with anything. Given how fresh and tasty this fish was, she had to agree. Takinom on the other hand was scarfing down the meat Naruto called pork. We're on an island and we literally have near zero respect for each other outside combat. Who is going to judge me that I will care for? Takinom asked very seriously. And Naruto, you are no longer a warrior. I am putting you to work in the kitchen of Chihira's castle. That meal was delicious, she said, rubbing her stomach in contentment. Gee, thank you so much. Naruto said, having cooked that all from literal scratch aside from the noodles and spices he got at chaotic. When he first ordered ramen they gave him some plastic cups with water. It was good to pass as a snack but not a meal, so he learned to cook in his spare time. You're welcome. Takinom said as she was being serious. She discovered her new favorite meat. He was being sarcastic. Intress said flatly. Quiet hag, at least he sees me as younger while your white hairs truly show your age. Takinom said as Intress growled. So neither of you have heard of this place? Naruto asked, ending the conversation. Never, and I've never seen this type of fish before. Intress said, having spent much time in the forest of life and the riverlands and the ocean in overworld territory. Realistically, how far could the bauble send us? Naruto asked them. Well, it didn't break, so good news, but the odds are we are on some outer island of HAREM or possibly in a hidden location. Takinom said that while also hating it as hidden locations were hard to find even when lucky, and she hated that this place was called Illusion Island. What does happen when it breaks? Naruto asked them. The best way to put it is that it explodes the energy it uses to transport others. It is said the energy explodes reaching some far-off location or the blast sends anyone in range outward ending who knows where. Intress said as only a few ever made it back after such an incident. Takinom said nothing as Intress summed it up perfectly. So how'd we end up here if it didn't explode? Naruto asked wondering if he was the factor. Omer's upgrades, the bauble was fluxing even when you weren't touching it, it might mean the device had more than a few glitches. Takinom said as Omer often had screw-ups like this, but never to this level. Next day. Naruto began exploring the island looking around and soon found what he had been searching for, but it was not what he expected. He had come looking for water and found it, but the water was brownish-black almost murky, he couldn't see past the surface. He scooped some up and smelt it, poison. He thought to himself wondering what the point was of poisoning water on an island in the middle of nowhere. Few minutes later. You'll have to bring us water as well. Intress said as she could make water, but she liked to conserve energy. What are you doing? She asked seeing Takinom on a tree and looked to be examining it. I'm trying to figure out why this place is called Illusion Island. Takinom said as she honestly thought there would be something akin to a mirage, but no such avail as everything she came into contact with was real. Maybe it's the water, maybe it trips you out, it is poison. Naruto said to her seeing her shake her head. A location is named the way it is for various reasons, most of them more obvious than others. Takinom said as she needed to keep busy and didn't for 1 second believe something on this island wasn't off. Mind showing me this poison water? She asked as Naruto started walking. As long as she is kept busy. Intress thought to herself. With Takinom. This is definitely poison. Takinom thought to herself before igniting it in her palm and even the vapor smelt toxic. That's odd, she said to herself mostly. What? Naruto asked her wondering what she saw. The land. Takinom said looking at the land around the watering hole, funny how the poison seems to be present in the water, but not having any effect on the land, she said to him. Naruto had to give her that as if the water was as poisonous or as toxic as either believed, the land around the water should be dead. He did a release and so far nothing, maybe, he thought focusing more chakra into it and tried again. Takinom was shocked as the space around Naruto shifted, the grass under him changed looking dead, the trees looked black and very much gone. This entire island is an illusion, she thought in surprise, before seeing it revert back to normal. They rushed back to Intress needing to inform her. Few minutes later. So all these supplies I gathered are poison? Intress asked having gathered some berries and wood. Wood is probably fine, but I wouldn't recommend eating anything. Naruto said to her. This island is a death trap. Takinom said as she took to the air getting high enough to see that the illusion on this island had a set range, only people in contact with it was under the illusion. I wonder. Naruto said to himself as he had been thinking on something, why was that water the only thing we could see? He asked them. The location might be tainted. Intress said offering her 2 cents, this island was probably a paradise a long time ago, but it could have gotten sick, a caretaker is needed for that or someone did this deliberately as the water may not be of this land, she said as if the island had been casting an illusion it should have hid the water as well, not being able to meant the water was somehow different in connection to the rest of the island. Naruto was silent, if they wanted answers, they needed to dig for them. 20 minutes later. This is dumb, even by overworld standards. Takinom said to Naruto as he was in a full-body wetsuit. We kinda don't have a choice. Naruto said as he stared at the pool of poison water and put on some goggles. I'll have to hose you down afterwards. Intress said as it was better to be safe than sorry. Naruto chose to just dive in, the water was hard to see through but he could still move, he held up his scanner and was thankful it was waterproof, the water seemed empty, till he found a music. 1 hour later. The three sat by the fire in total silence, Naruto more out of awkwardness as the music he found was believed to be generic music given it was silver, but Takinom and Intress didn't recognize the symbols and to make matters worse when he scanned it and told them what it said it caused them to go completely silent. It was called Ostinato of Oben Emre, a strange and odd name to the creature women. it could only be used by. No. Takinom said to Intress just as she was going to open her mouth, we need a way off this island, not some ghost fairy tale that should be left where it is, she said to her. Going to be hard with this. Intress said, pointing to a chest with a symbol on it they could only guess was the symbol of the lost tribe. Naruto had found it near the music and pulled it out. I swear if there is more music in that. Takinom said as Naruto picked the lock. Well, it's not music. Naruto said as they came to see it battle gear. Not even rusted. Intress thought, wondering how it survived being in that water. Finally a solution. Takinom said to them, having dealt with Ulmer many times, she had some knowledge of the inner working of battle gear. She carefully popped one open and began using her finger as a makeshift blowtorch. Naruto and Intress watched as Takinom disassembled the battle gear. Hey, can I ask something? Naruto asked Intress, getting a nod. You two seem to hate each other, but it seems like you've been around one another before, he said, as it was how they commented on each other when they ate, how they seemed not as tense as enemies working together would be. That's because she's my sister. Intress said, shocking Naruto. Naruto looked at the two of them and saw they shared absolutely nothing in common. It's not uncommon for creatures of two different species to have children. Intress said to him, and it is even less surprising if a child were to take only one parent's appearance. I took after our father, and Takinom our mother, she said to him. Okay, that's a biology question I never thought about. Naruto thought to himself. He guessed that Intress' father was some sort of tiger man, seeing as how he knew a few different cat species, and Takinom's mother had to be a humanoid dragon/demon person. I'm sure you're aware that in war there are casualties. Intress asked him, seeing him nod. Well, our village was caught up in a skirmish between the overworld and underworld. Most of the inhabitants didn't survive, and our parents being amongst them. I was saved by Tartarek and Takinom was saved by Agitos, she said, sadly missing the days of her youth. Maxer's father took me in and I trained under him and Maxer, she said to him. While Takinom was trained under Chire. Naruto said, thinking life could be a real bee sometimes. I swear this story is always a dumb one, sibling fighting sibling, he said, as Sasuke's own drama with Itachi was understandable, but not the means in which he took to get that revenge. You're telling me? Intress said, thinking about her own student who shared her tale as well minus a few details. So why the harsh battling? You two don't seem to hate each other. Naruto asked, as they seemed relatively healthy, mentally speaking. We do it because we're loyal to our tribes. We may understand why the other is doing what they're doing, but we can't accept the other as we have seen atrocities committed by both tribes. Takinom said, as this war each side did things that seemed justified to them, but also heinous to others. The underworld has people like Van Blut, and the overworld has people like Slurk. Intress said, as the only defense she had was the overworld at least branded their traitors as wanted and non-affiliates to their tribe, while Chire kept his scheming enemies close by, knowing that they were doing such things. Don't forget Arius and Victar. Takinom said, as those two were amongst a long list of boneheads. Okay, I get both sides have idiots and dumb people. Naruto said, as this was a spark that could cause a much bigger fight. Finally. Takinom said in joy. Naruto and Intress looked at Takinom's handiwork and it left room to be desired. It looked like a bad patch job. To make their nerves even more rattled, one of the gold rings around the sphere broke. Time to get back home. Takinom said, lifting it up. Wait. Naruto and Intress said, as it was too late, they had fluxed. Where are we? Takinom asked Naruto, having him use his scanner. Numen Voidland. Naruto said, explaining they couldn't use elemental attacks. Intress looked around and saw this location looked like Mypedian territory. If not for the rocky high ceiling she would have thought they were in Parim. Naruto ported and soon came back. I have zero clue where we are, he said, as he then pointed at the shining city in the distance. He noticed fish moving around them, and so did the others. Oh, please tell me I didn't die. Intress said, once having a dream about fish she could catch on land. Nope, they're real. Takinom said to her as one flew by her and she caught it. Listen, I think we should move, before we're seen, if this place does have inhabitants, I'd rather not PSS them off without knowing as much information. Naruto said as they nodded in agreement. 1 hour later. They found a cave to hide in, and given an entrance was the fastest way to be seen by incoming and outgoing parties. They had to go in deeper, it was much wider than they thought. Naruto and Intress decided to go and investigate. Naruto took a scan of this place and wanted to see who or what was in what looked like a shell of a building. Naruto and Intress easily found the inhabitant given the purple glow, and given how wide a wingspan he had they made sure to be in his blind spot. Naruto signaled for Intress to go back to Takinom as he was going to scan this creature, and while he could port if seen, she couldn't and would be caught. The glowing creature heard an unfamiliar noise, and when it turned around its eye winced seeing a bright blue light. It floated forward in a dash and saw no one there. It became annoyed and began looking around, swooping around. Naruto was beyond glad he knew substitution. He made sure to run back to the others, making sure the creature couldn't see him. The creature spent a few good moments searching and soon returned to his home. He then made it back to the others and showed them the name of this location and who that creature was. They left the cave not wanting to be anywhere near that thing. We need to find a way home, the battle gear isn't working and we are out of options. Takinom said, not wanting to deal with a lost clan, especially when they looked like that. I may have an idea. Naruto said, getting their attention. In chaotic we can sometimes access a creature's memories, he said, leaving the part out where he could dig as deep if not deeper. I have Cyrilline's scan and location. If I can port to chaotic I can search for a way to fix this, he said, pointing to the flux bauble. It's that or possibly death. Takinom said, as the lost tribe of Marillions was not something she wanted to come in contact with. Do we know for sure if they're harmful? Intress said, as this could be an opportunity to make peace and good relations. Naruto's way holds the least risk, he'll have his memories. Takinom said, as she preferred to have options, not risk it all on a single gambit based on maybe, go, she said, having faith he wouldn't let her down. Beta Drome. Thank God they have single-player matches here. Naruto thought, as it was one of the reasons why the Beta Drome was so busy. People often came here to test new cards. He chose Cyrilline's lair and Cyrilline. Naruto transformed and it felt old. This body felt all kinds of weird. It was like a combination of a bat and a squid. He then saw he was in the location. He tried to think and so far, nothing. What the hell am I supposed to do? Naruto thought, as Van Blut and Skartalas were so much easier. Those were memories and feelings of passion. He thought, as that was how those two felt. When he was calmo he followed his instincts, as being inside Danyan territory was a constant for him. Naruto floated around, even leaving the cave to see if the locations could trigger anything, but all that was in this creature's head was pain, and something evil. It was lingering in the back of his mind. The 9 tails was a pain, but this was something devoid of any trace of emotion. Aan. The hell was that? Naruto thought to himself, there's that name again. Who the hell is Aan? He thought before flashes of a figure appeared in his mind, and it felt worse than the feeling in the back of his mind, as he now had a face to think about. Naruto's seal. The 9 tails was silent. His host had gotten him in a truly dumb situation. They were in a world where the rules were different. In a way he was grateful, as there were many fewer irritations and ways to seal him, but he had peered into Naturen's head when he did so to Naruto, and he learned much. The wizard was as old as possibly even his father, but still no threat to him. The tribes were no different than his homeworld, but this creature Naruto was currently using. It spoke as if its own mind was suppressed somehow. He knew this feeling, and when Naruto saw who and what Aan was, the 9 tails felt the creature's fear of him. This being was not unlike Madara Uchiha, and that put him on edge. With Naruto. I swear it's like this thing has never had a thought. My mind feels like it's in a haze. Naruto thought as he tried digging up information, but nothing was coming to his mind, but snippets and small details. Armory. He thought, wondering if they could use a battle gear so Takinom could use it to power the flux bauble again. All Naruto got was a picture of a creature and a brief location. Okay, time to code myself. Naruto thought to himself, as this was a waste of time. With Intress. You couldn't see any memories? Intress asked, not sure how the process worked. Nope, nothing. It's like he was a total blank. I saw snippets and something. Naruto said, not too sure how to describe FUNN. I don't think we should interact with creatures if their minds are mush. Takinom said as Naruto made them sound like they were mindless. I think we should head into the city, the one memory I did have was there. Naruto said to them. Going into enemy territory is never a good idea, going into unknown territory is even worse. Takinom said as that was simple combat strategy. But doing nothing while we're trapped means we have more of a chance to be discovered. Naruto said, countering her point. You lead, we'll follow. Intress said as Naruto was right, doing nothing meant they were as good as caught. They all stuck to the ground and made it to the glowing city. They went to higher ground but kept low of any flying creatures as they were more active here. There's the pyre. Naruto thought to himself, seeing it over there in the center. He felt like he knew which building, but he couldn't tell them apart. Luckily he didn't have to. The creature he saw with the memory entered the building. Naruto, Intress, and Takinom had to be fast. They made their way to ground level and rushed inside the building, not seeing the creature that had entered. Takinom took off upward, doing a backflip and dived down, capturing the creature. Hold on, the creature said in urgency, seeing Takinom ignite her free hand. Naruto scanned him and got his name, Barakaten, he said, and by his title and image, he knew this creature did in fact make battle gear. Wait, we should question him. Intress said to her sister. Let me go or I'll send a mental wave to the whole tribe. Barakaten said to them. He's not bluffing. Naruto said as given thought traveled faster than anything. They were in a pinch. Takinom released him. I'm surprised you're not mind slaves. Barakaten said to them. Is that the ability of this tribe, hive mind? Intress asked as it sounded like the Danian's ability. Barakaten shook his head. The Marillions share an ability through telepathy. The entire tribe, or most of it, is linked, he said to them. That's probably why I couldn't see his memories. Naruto thought as if the Marillions shared an active mental mind communication, it probably dampened the way a chaotic player could access memories. You said most. Takinom said, catching that snippet of information. There are those like myself that need a silent mind to craft battle gear. Barakaten said to them. Speaking of. Takinom said, handing him the flux bauble. Barakaten looked it over. Whoever added these new additions was a total amateur. These would have likely gotten you killed, he said to them as Naruto and Intress sent a look Takinom's way. So what does this mind ability do? Intress asked curiously. It links us to FUNN. We gain power that increases our abilities by a large margin, but we lose ourselves to his power. In the end we are his thralls. Barakaten said to them. Naruto took that note as it was another reason why the creature he used was so hard to see his memories. All of your tribe has this ability, he said to him. Yes, we can take control of others, and with FUNN boosting our abilities that number increases. Barakaten said to them. They were all silent from that statement. The multiplier effect. Intress said to them, if FUNN is giving power, I assume it boosts his own, or rather the range, she said to Barakaten. Where the hell even are we? Naruto asked him, wondering if they could get a location. Behind the doors of the deep mine. Barakaten said to them simply. We're in the underworld. Takinom said, knowing where this was, it made her feel unease being so close to such a civilization. Why hasn't FUNN taken control of anyone beyond? Intress asked, wondering why they didn't manipulate anyone. Even our powers have limits. Barakaten said to her, we need to hit an opponent with a special attack to put them under our thrall, he said to her. Naruto scanned him again. Takinom said as he just did as he was told, now go back to chaotic and come back, she said to him as he poured it out. Why send him away? Barakaten asked her. You'll see, he's a human that have been seen in HAREM in recent years. Takinom said, glaring at Intress not to interrupt. They have many uses, she said, seeing Naruto come down from upstairs. Takinom and Naruto shared a look, and before Intress could say anything she pushed her hand right through his abdomen and Naruto pushed a rasengan through his head. Why did you do that? Intress asked in a growl. Look outside. Naruto said as Intress looked out a window and noticed there were no creatures anywhere in sight. They possess telepathy. Intress, he was merely keeping us distracted while also fishing for information, the others of his tribe are waiting for him to signal them, he made a flaw in telling us he wasn't connected. Takinom said as if this tribe could really control others with their abilities, they were much more dangerous than she could have thought. And you had Naruto scan him as he would have clearer memories than any other. Intress said as that was clever. Did he finish? Naruto asked Takinom, seeing the flux bauble was still in bad shape. Okay, I may have an idea, but it is risky, he said to them, seeing both raise their eyebrows. Few minutes later. This is the worst plan in history. Takinom said as Naruto grabbed Barakatan's corpse, spraying his BLD over all of them and threw it outside and yelled, "We surrender," at the top of his lungs as they were rushed. It's working by my standards. Naruto said, having shielded Intress and Takinom when the Marillions used their mind attack and he showed he was immune. They were then ordered to bring him to their leader. Are your standards certain death? Takinom asked, being very serious right now. They were brought to a shell-like home and the doors soon opened. Greetings. Aeon said, looking at the three in amusement. You have done me such a service, it will not go unrewarded, he said to them. They watched as the flux bauble was brought in. Once this is repaired, I will be able to leave, and even with a fraction of my forces HAREM will be mine. Aeon said to them, you too will be turned into mine slaves, he said, looking at the sisters who glared at him. But you, he said, looking at Naruto. But me? Naruto asked, wondering where this would go. I will need to absorb you, I'll make you into a Marillion if I can, your body is odd, it can resist mind attacks. Aeon said with a glare, not liking that one bit. I don't roll over for anyone. Naruto said stubbornly before Aeon grabbed him by his neck and soon roared in pain. Naruto's seal. The Nine Tails growled, seeing tentacles appear from the water. For once I'm glad he's so thick-headed, he thought to himself, seeing the tentacles recede a bit. This wasn't just a mental battle, it was a battle of wills. With Naruto. Takinom and Intress watched as Aeon seemingly tortured him. You have a much stronger will than many I have enslaved before. Aeon said, sounding amused. If you were one of my tribe, I would have made you a chieftain, he said to him, increasing his efforts. What is your plan, Naruto? Takinom thought in annoyance, as the moment she moved they would have fired at her. They had the flux bauble, their one and only means of leaving this place, and Naruto was within the leader's grasp. This was nowhere near ideal. We don't do anything, we'll all die. Intress thought, readying an attack. I'm only seeing glimpses, how odd. Aeon thought to himself, as normally a creature even a Marillion would have broken by now and all their secrets would be his. Perhaps strength isn't the answer, he thought, as when will battled will it often clashed, but when the mind was invaded by someone it trusted, the resistance weakened. Ryoha, I would like our guests to join me, he said to his subject. Ryoha blasted both Intress and Takinom's minds and sent a beam to Aeon's head. The pain Naruto felt was significantly magnified and things just started to gush out of his mind. Takinom and Intress not in as much pain as Naruto saw his memories, or rather when each one passed they saw more and more of the young man. I don't quit and I don't run. I hated you too, Sasuke. You don't have to worry about me until I become Hokage. I refuse to die. Believe it. I will protect you. If you hurt my sensei again, I'll kill you. That's my ninja way. Both sisters were amazed by what Naruto had to endure. It was as if they knew everything and nothing at the same time. Interesting. Ryoha said, able to shift through his mind much easier than these two. You certainly are an intriguing specimen. What other secrets are you hiding? Aeon asked as he pushed even harder. Intress and Takinom saw Naruto's eyes begin to shed tears of BLD. Naruto growled, reaching into his pouch and pulled out a kunai. You think you can defeat me with this? Aeon asked in amusement, as it was almost adorable. Oh no, Intress thought as Naruto began to gain a faint red and orange glow. Aeon took his kunai. Now what will you do? He asked tauntingly. I'll watch you explode. Naruto said, smiling as his tears of blood got into his mouth, making his grin look even more savage. FUNN was caught off guard by the statement and soon heard a sizzling sound. He saw it was coming from the kunai he took from Naruto, noticing at the end of it was a tag. Boom! Naruto said to him as an explosion filled the room. FUNN dropped him in surprise. He took out his scanner but couldn't see him through the smoke. He tried scanning thinking it was better than nothing, and then he dashed to where he last saw Takinom and Intress. I have to admit, that was a better plan than I thought. Takinom said to him as they ran. But what will we do now? They have the flux bauble, we're stuck here. Intress said as they ran. No, they don't. When Takinom sent me back to chaotic and I ended up on the top floor of the coral smithy, I made a shadow clone, left it upstairs, and I substituted the flux bauble, transforming something else to make it look like it. Naruto said to them, holding the real thing. I followed half of that, somehow. What did you replace it with? Takinom asked, getting her answer when FUNN's shell had another larger explosion. Chire will likely hire you for demolition, she said as with Gojo's tower, and now this Chire would likely be impressed. We're wasting time. Is the flux bauble working? Intress asked, getting back on task. No, but I have a way around that. Enter Nature Force. Naruto said as Intress did as told. Hopefully this works. He thought, a little glad he had the Nine Tails chakra running through him. Channel your power into the gear and I'll do the same with my chakra. We might be able to jumpstart it, he said, seeing bright colorful lights coming from both FUNN's shell and the way they were running. Do it now or we'll take these idiots with us. Takinom said, igniting her hands. Naruto and Intress channeled as much of their powers into the battle gear, seeing it shine as a result. Here we go. Naruto said, activating it. The passage. All of them looked around and saw they were in a familiar space. Oh, thank the Kothika, we're alive. Takinom said in total relief. Ah, CRP. Naruto said, seeing something he wished he hadn't. What is it, the enemy? Takinom asked, wondering if any of the Marillions made it through. No, I meant to scan FUNN, but I got that crazy woman. Naruto said, showing them Ryoha scan. Any information you can pull would be valuable. Intress said as while that was next to impossible given they were all connected to FUNN, Naruto still got memories from the other Marillion, and he had Brachython as well, and he was not as connected to FUNN as the rest of his tribe. Naruto sighed as he had 3 scans of the tribe. That would have to do for now. We'll have to inform our leaders. Takinom said as there were some things not even she could ignore. They would have to tell them about what they saw and what had happened. Intress nodded. Maxer was away right now, but that wouldn't be a problem. I'm gonna go rest for about a week. Naruto said, porting out. When he left, both sisters were left to their thoughts, or rather, Naruto's. When FUNN breached his mind using them, the things they saw were horrible: battles, loss of friends, their bitterness toward each other. All of it paled to what Naruto had endured. Their respect for him grew, and while they knew more, they still knew nothing about him. Perhaps I can ask Najirin. Intress thought to herself, intending for him to look through her mind regardless of Naruto. I'll see if I can get Koppon to open up to him. Takinom thought as he was her music instructor. While not the nicest and could be quite strict, he knew there were times and places for his attitude and when not to use it. Few days later. Kit was concerned. Unlike most chaotic players, Naruto's scanner had a health monitor that monitored his body, his heart rate, his blood pressure, mental activity, and so on, and all of his readings were off the charts. Given he couldn't port out to return to a body where he'd be restored to the point where nothing his chaotic self endured would transfer over like most chaotic players who lost an arm or leg and returned to their body and came back whole. Naruto's cabin, while slightly messy, seemed fine. He saw Naruto on his bed but noted, he had dried blood on his face. Kit wondered if this had anything to do with the abnormal brain waves he saw in Naruto's readings. He examined Naruto's deck, seeing 3 scans he had never seen or heard of along with new locations. He ported in and out before his final return. It wasn't uncommon for a chaotic player to do like him and journey out a new location, scanning multiple points and return he to load them upon each scan to keep journey further at any given time. He cleaned the BLD of Naruto's face at the very least, seeing no injuries, and wondered what could have caused him so much pain. He bled. Next day. Better keep these in reserve. Naruto thought to himself, looking at his Marillion scans and locations. He looked at the last scan of Van Blut he took. I should put this in reserve as well, he thought to himself, as if Van Blut was going to serve Aeon, that information would have to wait. This day was looking up at least. He went to check on Takinom and learned she had placed a bounty on Clay's head and told Ulmer and Kaiban that if they couldn't capture him, to burn him alive. Naruto chuckled, as Clay was a known underworlder user. While he stole scans, he did go to the underworld to get scans. Naruto then went to see if Jack, his beard was a bit more trimmed and he looked much healthier, Najurin having used healing mujiks on his every so often to undo the damage he had endured. He saw Intress there as well and learned that she was planning to take steps to prepare if the Marillions ever got out. Wish I could stay, but I have a match in a few minutes. Naruto said as he had a match soon. Against what tribe? Intress asked, wondering what tribe the player used. Overworld. Naruto said to her. They have good taste. Intress said to him, scan me, she said as he had yet to scan her. She noted when with Atacat he asked, while other players just did it at their own risk, he scanned enemies easily enough. She wanted to give him her strength and wanted him to achieve victory. Naruto was surprised by the offer and saw her enter Natoforce when he scanned her. She had one additional thing for him to scan. Hotek Drome. Kaz fought her a week ago, I think. Naruto thought to himself, remembering she used mainly overworlders, but used underworlders as well. Maybe I should do the same, he thought, given his recent overworld and underworld team up with Takinom and Intress. Naruto placed his team, Intress and Takinom, along with Atacat, Rothar, Ulmer, and Alkiex. I can't use Takinom's ability from the get-go, he thought, having seen the playback on Kaz's fight against Herculeon. Kaz did well, but he relied on that ability for each match. It was a dumb strategy even Takinom herself wouldn't do, even though she was the one he kept. I can only use that move twice and I can only do it if the risk is worth the reward, he thought to himself before giving battle gear out. He gave Intress and Takinom each a Lickalizer to boost Intress water attacks and give Takinom the ability to use water. He gave Alkiex Bodal's dagger to boost his non-elemental attacks. Atacat was given a Torweg to give him flight. Rothar was given a Webcrack, got in a trade with Kaz for some music to enhance his firepower. Ulmer was given a Pyroblaster for the same reason. For locations, Riverlands, Forest of Life, Iron Pillar, Ulmer's Castle, Gojo's Tower, Kiru Armory, Kiru's City, Fear Valley, Mount Pillar, and the Mypedian Oasis. He thought to himself, giving himself an edge as these locations provided him with advantages and he knew them well. Players, lock your decks, the AI said to them. Naruto saw her team and it looks like she had the same idea as him. She was sporting Intress, Tanguth, Heptad, Takinom, Krek, and Magmon. Nice team. Enga said jokingly as they were equal in tribes. Thanks. Naruto said as Intress, Atacat, and Rothar were his front team. Takinom was mid-center with Alkiex, and Ulmer was in the back. Enga had Takinom in front, with Tanguth and Heptad, with Intress and Magmon mid-center, and Krek was in the back. Due to his last win here, Storm Maelstrom will attack first, the AI said to him. Naruto spun the location randomizer and saw it was Fear Valley. Atacat attacks Tanguth Toborn, he said as they both changed. Let's see who gets to be top cat. Tanguth said to him. Fear Valley. Thankfully I have higher energy than Tanguth. Atacat thought as he lost the Battle of Courage, losing 10 energy due to this location. He began running on all fours, having powerful speed he was going to abuse. Port Court. Think Naruto can win? Kaz asked as this girl defeated him a while ago. Sure, I mean Atacat clearly has the advantage there even with him losing energy. Tom said, seeing Atacat run, thinking he should try to get a scan of him next time. Enga has a pretty solid record, Naruto might be in trouble. Sarah said, having seen many of the girls' matches, she was, for a lack of a better word, spectacular, but she was a good sport and competitor. Looks like they found each other. Peyton said, looking at the screen. With Naruto. You won't escape me. Tanguth said to Naruto, having him in a chokehold. Wow, I've waited all of PBRTY for a girl to say that to me and it's a total bummer. Atacat said to himself before equipping his torweg and launching upward. Tanguth held on tightly before seeing where they were, above the lake of burning green goo in Fear Valley. I'm not letting go, I'll take you with me, he said to him. Atacat smiled. Rustoxic, he said, hitting Tanguth and pried himself free. Enjoy your bath, he said, laughing. Tanguth broke his arm free and equipped his battle gear, the most popular with Tanguth, the sword of Kiat. He fired a beam not hitting Atacat, but winged his battle gear, causing it to blow out smoke and exhaust as he fell as well, but Tanguth hit the soup first and was code. Port Court. She couldn't take him down, but took his battle gear. Peyton said as that was an impressive loss all things considered. That was good. Tom said, taking a lesson from his fellow overworld player. When you lose a battle or you know you're gonna lose, it helps to have a fallback or do something that can help your other creatures. Sarah said as that was just common sense. With Naruto. You winged me, nice move. Naruto said, knowing she chose the battle gear over Atacat because he had most of his energy. Thanks. Enga said as it was her turn, she spun her spinner and it landed on Glacier Plains. Heptad attacks Atacat, she said to him. Naruto guessed that as aside from Intress, he was her best play in that location. Port Court. The others watched as Naruto appeared in one of the few ice caves in Glacier Plains. Always hated that place. Tom said as he went there in person, even with winter gear he felt frozen solid in a minute. Everyone does, pretty much everyone has a base scan. Peyton said as in a chaotic battle, when the players were teleported it often took the player who scanned the location to the general place where he scanned it. It was how most players found each other at this location. They were interrupted by the sound of music. That's canon of casuality. Kaz said in surprise that an overworld creature was using it. Heptad can use all musics from all tribes, he's one of the most desired creatures. Peyton said as he was extremely diverse. With Naruto. She tried to one-shot me. Atacat thought as he was low on energy now just from a simple music. Sorry, but I'm taking you down, Rock Wave. Heptad said as he slammed his hands down and it went straight at Atacat. Atacat jumped over the attack and fired a vine lash at Heptad. He dodged it and then shot fire his way. Port Court. Not smart. Sarah said to herself. Using fire at Glacier Plains is tricky. Peyton said, having learned that firsthand. What, why? Kez asked them. In the ice caves there are often large icicles on the ceiling. They're sharp and sensitive to heat, they'll rain down on you. Sarah said to him. Wish I knew that during my first battle. Tom said as he was fighting Takinom. With Naruto. SHT. Atacat thought dodging icicles left and right, even slipping on water from the melted ice. Heptad continued to fire at Atacat, seeing him run away. Atacat soon lost, having been stabbed by an icicle. Hotek Drome. Naruto did not like how he lost. I felt like a cat running from the rain, he said as Enga laughed at that comment. Well, you gave me a bath when I was Tanguth. Enga said, cheering him up slightly. Naruto suddenly got the feeling that people were commenting on that particular phrase. He looked and saw they were even, maybe, he thought to himself, seeing a risky situation. He moved Takinom up one space, spun the dial, and saw the location was Iron Pillar. Takinom attacks Takinom, he said as this was going to be good. Port Court. This is a rare sight. Kaz said to himself. Two players using the same creature. Tom said, haven't seen this happen once in his time here. Yeah, and they're at a location that limits their options. Sarah said as an Iron Pillar their battle gear was useless. Iron Pillar. Takinom 1 was hanging upside down from a platform using her wings as cover. Takinom 2 was walking around not using her wings, not wanting to be spotted. Port Court. Why are they not flying? Tom asked as it was the point of using Takinom. They both know that using the same things as the other is risky, using the most obvious abilities is dangerous. Kaz said as they were trying to get the drop on each other. Yeah, so who do we root for? Peyton asked, unable to tell which was Naruto. Iron Pillar. Take this. Takinom too said, firing at one. You're gonna have to try better than that, Ember Swarm. Takinom 1 said as she fired in retaliation. Both knew they were at a stalemate. Time for some music. Takinom 2 said as she used a magician, Song of Treachery, she said as Takinom 1's stats all began to drop. Oh no you don't. Takinom 1 said, activating her special ability. Both began to fire and blast the other till one of them burst to code. Port Court. Looks like she made the same mistake you did. Sarah said to Kaz, seeing that even though Naruto lost it was an even stalemate as Enga sacrificed Krek. Hotek Drome. Both were eager to get back in the game. Enga spun the spinner, Takinom attacks Rothar, she said to Naruto as the location was Gojo's tower. Gojo's tower. She had Krek, so this isn't surprising. Rothar thought to himself as Gojo's tower was an easy enough scan to get. Rothar made it inside, looking around as his sense of smell was useless here as this place was foul. I have the advantage. Rothar thought to himself as while Takinom had more energy, the music he used the last match was still affecting her other stats and this place took away a creature's courage by 10. Ember Swarm. Takinom said, striking from above. Ferocity. Rothar said as he fired it again. Port Court. Why is he only using that attack? Sarah asked, not seeing the point. It's her courage, it's lower than Draktil's. Tom said as Takinom's was 20 while Rothar's was a good 75, using ferocity on a creature with lower courage than you makes it more effective, especially when the courage is that low, he said to her. Enga sacrificed Krek already last match and they are tied up. Kaz said as Naruto lost Takinom and Atakat so far, Enga lost Tangath and sacrificed Krek. So this is our bro's chance to take the lead. Peyton said as ferocity was his best bet. They watched as Takinom soon became code. Hotek Drome. This is gonna be dumb. Naruto thought to himself as he was taking a rather large risk as he moved a creature and then spun the dial, he at least has home court advantage, he said to himself. Ulmer attacks Magmon, he said as they took on their creatures' forms. Ulmer's Castle. Song of Revival. Ulmer said, casting that music immediately. He intended to use it for Takinom when he used her ability, but he had to take a risk and wait for this moment. Ulmer only has one magician left and I only have one that will be effective on Magmon, he thought to himself as he equipped his pyroblaster. Port Court. He's gonna fight Magmon with a pyroblaster, that's like trying to drown a fish in water. Kaz said as fire attacks did harm Magmon, but they were incredibly weak in damage calculation. I don't think he's using it for that, bro. Peyton said as they all watched Ulmer open up said blaster. Few minutes later. About time. Ulmer thought to himself as he had been waiting for Magmon to show up. Hey Magmon, come on inside, he said, opening his front door. Your funeral, Ulmer. Magmon said, leaving a trail of lava as he entered the castle. He saw Ulmer down the hall. Well, let's see what you got. Ulmer said, blasting her with flames, and ran. Come back here, coward. Magmon said, firing a lavalanche his way. Port Court. Think his plan will work? Tom asked the others. Not sure, never seen battle gear used like this before. Peyton said as he really wondered if it'd work. With Ulmer. Come on. Ulmer said, riding a cart throwing bottles filled with only the Kothika knew what all over the floor, as Magmon chased him. Come on Ulmer, let's see what that brain is really made of. Magmon said, still chasing after him. Ulmer crashed into the lab and when he did, he grabbed his battle gear. Thank you Takinom, he thought as when he saw Takinom hot wire other pieces of battle gear into trying to fix the flux bauble, he thought of using Ulmer's genius to go above and beyond. Before Magmon got here, he tampered with the pyroblaster, now it was going to do much more damage. He pulled the trigger, and it didn't fire. Magmon saw this and laughed. Guess you picked a bad blaster to scan, he said to Ulmer. Nah, I just needed it to do its magic, catch. Ulmer said, throwing the blaster at Magmon. Magmon instinctively caught it, and when he did, he saw the blaster glowing, and then it blew up, sending him through the castle walls and into the water near Ulmer's castle before he burst into code. Hotek Drome. I can't believe you blew up your battle gear. Enga said, not sure if she was more surprised or impressed. Naruto smiled. The payout was worth it, he said, looking at his board. He had 5 creatures, and with this victory, Enga had only Heptad and Intress. He watched as she spun the spinner and soon saw the next location, Broken Edge. Guess I'll steal one of your plays. Intress attacks Intress. Enga said to him. Port Court. Where is Broken Edge? Tom asked, never hearing that location before. It's at the border of Mypedian territory and the Forest of Life. Peyton said, having a scan of it himself. Broken Edge. Kinda anticlimactic. Intress 1 said to her mirror copy. More Mexican standoff. Intress 2 said to her. Port Court. When did we draw in a crowd? Kez asked, seeing everyone watching Naruto's match. When there were 2 Takinoms. Sarah said, as Takinom and Intress were the more attractive creatures people liked to see battle. When people saw 2 of them duking it out, they made perverse comments around twins and redheads and the like. Hotek Drome. Talk about kicking your own butt. Naruto said as the battle ended in a draw. Yep. Enga said, having real fun. Port Court. Well, Naruto has this in the bag. Tom said, confident in their friend. I wouldn't be too sure of that. Sarah said, getting a curious look. Heptad is sought out for a lot of reasons. He's considered one of the strongest creatures, she said, as it was the truth with how strong and diverse he was. Almost every player wanted a scan of him. So Enga can turn this whole match around with just him? Tom asked her. She may have a point, bro. I mean, Rothar and Ulmer took a beating. Takinom has no magicians left and his only overworlder is Alkiex. Peyton said to him as Heptad was still good to go. If Naruto uses Takinom, he can win. Kaz said to them as she could go all out and win it. Yeah, he can actually use her ability every time for this last match instead of for each match. Sarah said, pointing out how terribly he used Takinom in his match compared to how Naruto can use it. Underworld abilities were dangerous if abused. The next location is Kiru City, the AI said to them. Alkiex attacks Heptab. Naruto said. The group was surprised Naruto picked Alkiex. While not seeing any risk, they wondered why he picked him. Kiru City. Alkiex had equipped Bodil's dagger immediately. Hopefully this gives him an edge, he thought to himself. Alkiex had ran through the city toward the castle, not running into Heptad. This is odd. Alkiex thought as a battle was rarely this easy and Heptad was hard to miss given his colorful nature. He found the hidden magician that was inside the castle, and upon making contact he saw Heptad waiting for him. One of the only perks of this location. Heptad said to him as he absorbed the magician. Song of Ember Nova. Alkiex said, activating the music. Heptad was confused. He expected Alkiex to use a more powerful music. That music was all but a small hit. Shriek shock. Alkiex said before jumping out the window. Port Court. Why'd she let him use the music on her? Peyton asked, as that seemed extremely dumb. Because now he has no cards left to play. Sarah said as Enga had Naruto and sometimes players became desperate in a corner. Now all he has is Underworlders. Tom said as Takinom would be the next creature to be attacked, and with her ability, if he used it and ran out of creatures, the next battle could be the final one. He's not doing bad as Alkiex. Kaz said as he was running and blindly shooting, but he did manage to hit Heptad a few times, and with the music damage, he had a little over half his energy. Not bad isn't good enough when Heptad is concerned. Sarah said as Naruto took another hit, one more and he was code, and that hit soon came. With Naruto. So are you ready to go all in? Enga asked, referring to Takinom as she was his best chance. May the best player win. Naruto said as he transformed into Takinom and Enga into Heptad. Storm Tunnel. I really hate this location. Naruto and Enga thought as it was CRP to battle in. Takinom having the advantage with her claws dug them in deep and climbed higher. Heptad seeing her climb did the same. I have to get ahead. Takinom thought to herself, remembering a tidbit of information the Ninetales once said when insulting this game: fire was supposedly stronger than wind. If that was indeed true, if he used a powerful enough fire attack, this place would be up in flames. Port Court. Worst location ever. Peyton said as it truly was the worst place to end up. Yeah, I have a scan of the place and I still don't like to use it. Sarah said, hating it a lot. What's the point then? Kaz asked them, having never been. Easy place for someone to get coded. Tom said, having his own scan, that place is all about holding on and endurance, as where it goes is simple, a quick death. Players put it in to see if they can get lucky with who they attack, he said, as this location was about surviving it, not the enemy. With Naruto. Adios Omer. Takinom thought before sacrificing him for more energy. She looked back and saw Heptad a good distance away. Don't fight the wind, work with it, she thought as she began climbing a bit higher and then aimed downward. Incinerate, she said, blasting an extreme wave of fire. Heptad saw the fire flood the tunnel and was gonna crash right into him. He let go and was caught in the wind flow. Slowing down was not an option. He soon saw his mistake and saw 3 spinning boulders that would reduce him to paste. He grabbed onto the wall, but then saw the flames had caught up to him. No, he said before he was code. Port Court. Everyone cheered seeing Naruto win his match. They watched as Naruto pulled out his scanner and walked up to Enga and then held out his hand. That was a good match, a close one at that. I hope you don't mind me asking for a rematch. Naruto said to her as she took his hand. Count on it. Enga said as they left the drone. Coral Forest. Why did Staluk let you scan him? Enga asked in jealousy as she twisted her hair as she, Tom, and Sarah were soaked. Bribery. Naruto said, obviously holding out some apples. He's a horseman. I bribed him for a scan. He hates it when people steal and he sees scanning as thievery, he said, as while already having a scan of Staluk, a creature's stats could go up or down within a time frame. Sarah wished Danians were that easy. Naruto tossed Tom and Enga his apples. Apologize and make sure you say you didn't get anything, he said to them, porting back to Chaotic to seek his battling Clay. He wanted to see the cheat get a real good thrashing after the trip he sent him on with the flux bauble. Naruto had asked Krillin if what Clay had done was worthy of being banned from Chaotic, but apparently it wasn't, as tricking a Chaotic player into certain destinations wasn't considered a crime and more along the lines of a bad prank and hazing. What happened there was all on them, like all Chaotic players. It upset Naruto to no end, but he was at least glad that Clay purposely using the flux bauble on him could be seen as a threat to his person and he could call out Clay. He was just waiting for the right opportunity. 10 minutes later. What the hell are you doing? Naruto asked Enga as she and Tom were covered in green goo. He wondered what was taking them so long and came back to check on them. They're trying to get a scan of Yaki's. Sarah said, sitting back and enjoying the show. Why? Naruto asked, having seen a few people with his card. Yaki's was a great support card as he gave 5 extra energy to stats to creatures he was on the same team with. Unbiasedly, it made him a good card to have even if his stats were low. Tom said his stats were as great as Maxer, Enga saying the same. I truly wonder if they are being punked. Naruto thought to himself as he joined Sarah, as Kaz's match was still going and he had a strong feeling he'd win. He was impressed by Kaz's choice to use separate tribes to win. So you and Enga seem to be hanging out a lot? Sarah asked curiously, wondering if something was going on. We made some trades. I gave her some location scans of the overworld and the underworld. She traded me some mujiks and then we started hanging out and going around Harem. Naruto said as Enga had so few friends and after their match they clicked. Sarah raised a brow but decided not to say anything. 30 minutes later. 7 out of 10. Naruto said to Yaki's. Excuse you? Yaki said to Naruto, not seeing his scanner out, and got close, wanting to bait him. Your pranks, I'll give you points for setup and the hole they walked into it and using nature against them angle, but you could try adding a spin to it. Naruto said to him. Care to put your money where your mouth is? Yaki's asked him before Naruto tossed him a red ball and he backed away. What's this? He asked curiously. Chili pepper bomb. Naruto said as it then blew up when Yaki's squeezed it. Yaki's coughed and before he knew it his eyes watered and his throat was on fire. He said running into the nearby lake. Tom and Enga who pulled themselves out of the hole Yaki's led them into saw the annoying creature running in pain. What did you do? Enga asked him wanting to repeat it so she could see the creature cry in pain. Naruto held a chili pepper bomb. I made these little bombs, they are filled with chili peppers, hot sauce, and some other spices, he said to them. What would happen if I shoved it down his throat? Enga asked truly curious. Naruto raised a brow. He'd probably run wild, his insides burning in a figurative sense as the smoke escapes out his mouth, he said to her as he once did that to someone as a prank, with regular smoke bombs. Tom and Enga liked that imagery very much. You just carry those around? Sarah asked him wondering why he would need those. Sarah, I am known as the prankster king of hell. Yaki's is unique, but not in my ballpark. Naruto said as if this was when he hadn't reached his double digits. Yaki's would have been competition. Say that again. Yaki's said in anger, totally soaked. Enga and Tom soon hang back with Sarah watching Naruto have a go. 10 minutes later. He looks like he got hit with delirium. Tom said as Yaki's was fumbling around and raised his scanner. You're gonna scan him when he's like that? Sarah asked as that sounded like a horrible idea, as if a creature was suffering from something the scan would forever be like that, and given he was hit with a chili pepper bomb earlier and now dizzy as all hell, she didn't think Tom would like the scan. Tom saw Yaki's soon fall into one of his own holes and winced. Naruto took a nearby bee nest and threw it in the hole along with some of Yaki's green goo, hitting him in his eyes. Ha! Yaki said, screaming in pain, running out of the hole with the bees chasing him. He once again ran into the lake. Mind going to check up on Kaz? Naruto asked them, wondering how the match turned out. He watched as Yaki soon came out of the lake again and approached Naruto. Teach me your ways, Mstr. Yaki said to him, bowing to him on his hands and knees. 1 hour later. What in the name of Kira happened to all of you? Intress asked, seeing Atacat was now blonde from head to toe, Tangath had a pink mane, and the guards and troops were down to their underwear and scratching themselves all over the floor. I don't want to talk about it. Tangath said as he tried washing this out, but it wouldn't go away. What's wrong with him? Intress asked, looking at Bodil and seeing him rocking himself in a corner. Atacat scoffed. His armory was disorganized and his lists were altered, he said as he had it easy compared to the rest of them. Intress decided it may be a good thing Maxer had yet to return, as this was a sad sight. With Naruto. I have so much to learn from you. Yaki said as he and Naruto had been pranking all of Kiru. You really do. Naruto said as he gave Yaki some spare chili pepper bombs and some other fun materials. Yaki's had never received a gift like this, one that helped the thing he enjoyed most. Here, he said to him as his body began to glow blue. Naruto watched as Yaki's, evolved for lack of a better word, he looked almost like a Mypedian. He scanned him and saw he gained the title, Spooker. Okay, this is almost as strong as Maxer, he thought, still seeing Yaki's could increase a team's stats by 5 in each category. This made Yaki's worth a lot more. Yaki's watched as Naruto poured it away and looked at his new prank set. Yaki's, an angry underworlder yelled. You're looking at the new and improved Yaki's. Yaki's yelled as his game went to the next level. Port court. Whoa. Tom said, seeing Yaki's scan Naruto had acquired. Yeah, also I wouldn't try to scan him for a while, I gave him some of my supplies. Naruto said to them, seeing them shiver in fear at the thought of Naruto helping Yaki's. Anyway, I got plans tonight, I'll catch you guys later, he said, taking off. Wonder where he's going? Peyton asked them. You ever notice Naruto is always on the move? Kaz asked them curiously. Maybe he just likes Param. Sarah said as she would be excited to see the Danian hive if they'd allow her in. Yeah, I mean, I've done some camping here and there. Tom said to him as he camped out a few places to get some creature scans. That reminds me and Kaz have a trip to Kira's city tonight, he said to them. Good luck my dudes. Peyton said as he ported home. So do you ever wonder about Naruto? Enga asked Sarah curiously. Yeah, I mean he's still known as the Black Scanner. Sarah said as people were still curious about him even after he started battling, people wondered and said some things. What happens to chaotic players that get stuck here? Enga asked curiously. They try to make it in HAREM, meeting the wrong creature, going to the wrong location, getting mixed up in creature business, the list is long. Sarah said having heard many rumors especially from people who ran into Clay, they didn't want to be pitted by staying here usually, she said as it got worse in some cases as some went crazy or became mentally unstable and some thought if they destroyed their virtual and coded selves, they'd return to their real selves. It was always a tough thing to watch and see. Enga frowned as that was depressing. Do you think Naruto is one of those players? She asked her. Sarah let out a breath and took a moment. Hard to say, she said as she knew Naruto was here a lot and she saw him around every once in a while, but he spent a lot of time in Chaotic and in HAREM, as if he lived here or there, and he never talked about his life outside of Chaotic. Maybe, but I wouldn't push it, she said to her new friend. Naruto had introduced them and there were so few female friends that went past the guys as Sarah was not one to deny she could be a bit of a tomboy given her lack of fear and restraint. Enga nodded as while curious she didn't want to bring up bad memories. Kiru City. Kaz never understood why he felt so nervous in Kiru City. In the underworld one had to constantly watch their back, here it was often peaceful and kinda nice. Maybe the peace was why he felt nervous always on the edge and now unable to live without the thought of knowing someone might try to get him. Tom really liked coming to the overworld. He often wondered if he'd run into the scans he already had in his deck, or more accurately Maxer. He wondered what it'd be like to meet his signature creature, Maxer. The two chaotic players were on their way to the armory wanting to increase their arsenal with overworld gear. With Naruto. About DMN time. Naruto thought also in Kiru for an entirely different reason to Tom and Kaz. He was wearing a black GI, a face mask like his sensei's, his old headband, and wrapping to cover his hair as blonde spiky hair was not common here as far as he could tell, by creature or chaotic player. He came here because hearing was able to get him the info he needed as Spider had reported finding a way into Kira City. He was going to follow him knowing he had follow-up orders by Van Blut. Naruto had found Spider very easily. He was a noticeable red and brown. He had followed him into the armory, the aerodrome. He thought as if he was remembering right it increased air attacks and shot a small drone-like projectile that was enhanced by the creature wielding its own air attack. It's still in beta, he thought to himself remembering Alkiex was still working on the prototype. As it was now it shouldn't be that strong or useful, Bodil, he thought seeing the egotistical creature was sitting in his office completely unaware of what happened. Naruto followed Spider to the roof. He was intending on stealing the aerodrome back as Alkiex had been working HRD on it and he was really not liking Spider at all and didn't care if Chire tore off a limb or two. He was going to follow him and take him out when he left the city to go to Mount Pillar, but that went down the toilet when Tom and Kaz were in his path and more so when Tom stole from Spider. Naruto watched carefully and saw Spider had taken Tom in his webbing. Okay, time to intervene, he thought, charging a rasengan and diving down to Spider. The moment he made contact, he was shot at, by Bodil. Well, this is the most humiliating thing of my entire life, being shot by Bodil, he thought before running to Tom and cutting him free. Run, he said as Tom and Kaz ran away. Spider got up and saw who attacked him. You dare attack Spider, I'll drink you dry, he said angrily. Think you can hit him? Naruto asked Bodil. If you do not interfere with my shot, then most certainly. Bodil said in a tone that made it sound like Naruto was to blame. I wonder if I can get Yakis to prank him more. Naruto thought to himself before he charged Spider. With Tom. Kaz, did you see that? That guy was human and he attacked like a creature. Tom said in absolute shock as they hid behind a stand. Kaz nodded also in shock seeing this. Few minutes later. Naruto. Tom and Kaz said in shock as he revealed himself to them. No, I'm Tenguth Toborn, cleanly shaven. Naruto said to them sarcastically, and even that they seemed to believe, "It's me, you idiots, why are you here?" he asked them, wondering why they would come to Harem this late. "Forget about that, how are you able to fight like a creature?" Kaz asked, still in shock. "Listen, it's a long story, mind waiting and not telling anyone about this in the meantime?" Naruto asked, as he needed to get on Spider's trail soon. Tom and Kaz shared a look before they nodded. Naruto saw Bodil cutting the guards free. "What is that?" he asked, seeing what looked like a laser pointer. "A laser scalpel, it is a precision tool used for adjusting battle gear and melting and cutting," Bodil said to him as Naruto scanned it, as while not all powerful, it was still useful. "You mind letting these two scan some gear?" Naruto asked as Bodil sighed, but thought he could get something useful out of them, so he agreed. "Listen, I'll be back at Chaotic in a few days, I'll talk to you then," he said before taking off. Next day, he went right by the passage. Naruto thought to himself, guessing he was going right to Mount Pillar, he had to keep his distance not to be seen. He saw Spider taking a rest near a waterfall. "I should do the same," he thought to himself. Naruto's seal. "You complete idiot," the Nine-Tails said to him simply. "And I needed this," Naruto said, rubbing his temples. "You've been silent for over a year, what do you want?" he asked as politely as he could with him. "Un," the Nine-Tails said to him, getting Naruto's attention. "We both know nothing lasts forever, I've escaped and so can that prick who thinks he's some sort of god," he said, as Un was the only person he would give the credit of being able to tear this world asunder, as he was crazy and evil enough to kill everyone and everything, just because he could and he wanted to. It made him look human. "So what, you want me to kill him?" Naruto asked him, wondering what he wanted from him. The Nine-Tails snorted. "You can't do anything," he said, slamming his paw against the cage. Un saw you as nothing more than a joke, and he is right. He knows you can fight back now, and in that messed up mind of his he is thinking of ways to enter your mind," he said, as his host needed to improve drastically. "You need to improve and I will teach you," he said, seeing Naruto's shocked face. "Why?" Naruto asked, not easily believing that. "Because you're a better option than me, spending however long Aeoni will live for," the Nine-Tails said to him, as he felt Aeon was more powerful than he was letting on. "Now I suggest finding Heptad," he said to him, as Naruto was now confused. "You need to mstr the elements inside your body, and learning those you're not familiar with will harder, but I feel an elemental such as that one can actually train you," he said, as it was true. In all honesty, his previous hosts never had his elements, as they were too old for his chakra to have that kind of effect. Naruto had fire and wind, of that he was certain, but training would do him nicely, and, perhaps more, he thought, as tailed beasts didn't need to use hand signs for their elemental attacks, neither did these creatures. He wondered if Naruto could learn that as well. Naruto sighed, not seeing any con to training. "I'll ask Intress when I get back," he said to him. "One more thing. Why in the name of the sage are you trying to save some princess?" the Nine-Tails asked, as there was no benefit. His host was not a member of the bug species. Hell, he might have been a closer relation given his seven-tailed idiot brother. "Listen, I'm not gonna sit back while people like Van Blut and Skartalas try to start an even larger war that will kill who knows how many. I'll do what I can to help, but I ain't joining anyone. I'm just following my gut and what I believe in," Naruto said to him. The Nine-Tails had to give his host an iota of respect. That was a good answer. None of these clans were in the right, and yet he chose to do what he believed in. He wished to see how he would react to this mission, but he was also curious to how he would react to the Dainians' reactions. Najuran's memories of them made them seem complicated and hostile to uninvited guests. With Naruto opened his eyes, glad for the short rest, and was especially glad to catch Spider leaving as well. 2 days later. "Come on," Naruto thought as he followed Spider. He wished he knew more of Kalmo's information for getting in here like he did in his first match with Tom. Spider climbed into one of the outer pillars that connected to the central pillar. "Did you hear Odiubathax is angry? Another human was spotted in the hive," a drone said to another. "Great," Naruto thought, now needing to make a run for the human they caught. Spider went through a small hole, small by mandibular standards. He followed him quietly and heard him digging. He was brought out of his thoughts as his seal began to heat up. He made it so his seal would heat up, so he knew he was getting a call. He pulled out his scanner as Spider was still digging, answered, and saw it was Tom. Naruto Sarah trapped in Mount Pillar. Tom said to him. Of course. Naruto thought to himself as he was in a real dilemma, his friend was in prison and he had an assassin to deal with. Listen, I'm already here, don't do anything dumb alright, he said hanging up. Naruto heard Spider breach the wall and begin climbing. He looked in and saw it was the elevator. Great, he thought as he followed Spider, taking great effort to be quiet as this area was highly exposed. He watched as Spider enter a floor, we're nowhere near the top. The hell is he going? He thought to himself, following the underworlder through the open door in the end. Soon he saw where they were. These were Scartalla's chambers. He remembered them from Scartalla's own memories. I have come as asked, where is the princess? Spider asked Scartalla's. She is 10 floors above us. Scartalla said bitterly, be done with it and make it fast, I will inform the queen upon your leaving. We were attacked by an overworlder, he said to him, handing him a liquilizer and pyroblaster. Keep talking. Naruto thought as he jumped back through the. Few minutes later. Naruto saw that the Danians were unconscious. Yep, the princess is close, he thought as these troops were wearing a more advanced armor than the ones guarding the front entrances. He ran past them, stopping at a corner when he heard a music play. You won't be contacting your hive princess. Spider said in amusement, brushing his hand on her cheek, having used the Song of Stasis music. You're going to die, but that doesn't mean I can't have a taste before your life ends, he said, getting face to face with her. Naruto took out 2 kunai. Hey Spider, how was that hit I gave you last time? He said, and when Spider saw him and recognized him, he aimed the blasters he had at him. Sorry you rapist PP, but I don't miss, he thought to himself as he threw each kunai into the exit hole of the guns and saw them expand before blowing up in Spider's hands. He then held up his hand, making a rasengan. Remember this? He asked. Seeing Spider nurse his bleeding hands and looked at him in fear, Naruto rushed him. Running right past him and did a quick spin, striking him in the back, sending him in the elevator. Now to fix this, he said, looking at Princess Asel, and channeled some chakra through her to undo the music. You're gonna be fine, he said as he undid his mask to put her more at ease. Thank you. Asel said, not liking that the miserable excuse for a creature and what he intended to do to her. No problem. Naruto said to her, you should know, Scartalla's did this, he said to her. Asel was silent. Do you have proof? She asked him. Well, he's going to the queen any minute to explain how an overworlder killed you, and I got this. Naruto said, showing Scartalla's, handing Spider his blasters. He used his scanner to record the conversation about him, revealing her location. Asel lowered her head sadly. Scartalla's hatched close to me, we were close when growing up, she said in a low tone. Many years ago, he wished to expand our territory. The end result was he had breached overworld territory. He attacked them, seeing them as the intruders. He lost the battle, and it was at a heavy cost, she said as she remembered the look of horror on his face after that battle. It made him a better leader of that was well known amongst the hive. Why did you come here? Why help? She asked him curiously. I heard Scartalla's in a meeting with Van Blut. He was planning to have you assassinated. Naruto said bluntly. And you didn't think to inform us? Asel asked, wondering why he didn't tell anyone else. Your men shoot everyone that approaches the hive and send them to your prison. Naruto said, as that was what happened to Danian players much of the time. Plus, like you asked earlier, I had no evidence till now, he said to her. Asel had to give him that. Thank you, she said as she knew how well knit her tribe was and how it made making relations with others outside of it difficult. No problem, so can we go stop a war? Naruto asked, getting a nod. Few minutes later. They waited till they knew Scartalla's went into the throne room and gave him a few minutes. They took the elevator to the top. Hey, after this, can you pardon a friend of mine Odyubathax as prisoner? Naruto asked her as she was a princess, making her second highest in authority. That is a simple matter. Asel said before they entered the throne room chambers. Naruto was glad about that. They made it to the top floor and he immediately had Danian spears pointed at him. Halt! Asel said to her over-eager guards, this is my savior, he saved my life, he shall not be mistreated, am I understood? She asked her guards, seeing them fear her. Naruto walked a good distance away from her as the Danian guards were almost literally on top of him. They made it to the queen's chambers. They saw Scartalla's before the queen. Assel was silent, giving her mother a silent look which she caught immediately. "My queen, the time has come, our princess has been murdered by an overworlder, can you no longer hear her?" Skartalas asked her. "No, but I can see her with a human," Alexia said to him. Skartalas saw Assel walk toward them. He was shocked, having thought that Spider had killed her. "Hello Skartalas," surprised. Assel asked, restraining her hurt and anger. "Valash," she said, summoning one of her mother's guards. Naruto saw a creature that looked like a combination between an ant and a wasp. He saw Assel order her subordinate to subdue Skartalas and had him step forward and approach the queen. "Interesting, I have not seen a human before," Alexia said, looking Naruto over. "Trust me, I'm not like other humans," Naruto said to her, not needing the Dainians of all people to think he was one of many. Alexia asked what made him different, and his response was doing an upward flip standing on the ceiling and holding a rasengan. "Fascinating," she said to herself, glaring at her guards to stand down. Naruto dropped down, taking it slow, not needing the guards to kill him. "Come human, tell me your tale, I get a verso bored here," Alexia said as Assel snorted in agreement. 1 hour later. Worlds beyond where even the humans are from," Alexia said, as it was not the most outlandish tale she had heard. "You are certainly interesting and have proven to be an ally to my tribe for saving my heir," she said to him, lowering her head in gratitude. "Name what you longing as a reward, child, and it shall be granted," she said to him, as her daughter was to be the next queen. Should she have perished, drastic measures would have been needed to be taken. "I asked for my friend's freedom, that is enough," Naruto said to her, knowing that taking advantage of her hospitality would have been an overstep. Alexia looked toward her daughter and she explained they had a chaotic player in their dungeon. Perhaps a boon would be more acceptable. "Are you familiar with Rasness?" she asked him. Naruto nodded as he looked into the name when he looked through Skartala's memories the first time. "Rasness is an overworld ambassador, a rare gem, that one," Alexia said, as Rasness never sought out violence, and had freed Kiru's city with understanding when a creature had trapped all of his people. "Over the years I have met with him a handful of times and have given him the title of Mandiblor, allowing him free reign to visit places like our library. He has access to our armories as well, but he was never interested in it, only understanding and trying to establish peace," she said to him. "You can say someone is a Mandiblor?" Naruto asked, as that was interesting. "Say is not accurate," Assel said to him, backing away. Naruto was curious to why she moved away and heard weird noises coming from the queen, and when he looked at her, it was as if she fired a sludge gush. "That is a pheromone marker, it'll imbue itself in your skin and pores, marking you as a Danian," Alexia said as Naruto stood up. "Great," Naruto thought dryly, as while this would prove useful upon coming back here. He smelled like puke. "Would it be okay if I scanned you, Queen Alexia?" he asked, as after getting puked on, he wanted to make this worth it. The queen asked him what he meant. Naruto explained the process to her and why it was chaotic players kept coming. Very well, but I'd like to see my stats," Alexia said to him, curious to her strength compared to other creatures. Naruto did it and her guards were on alert, and when Naruto showed her the stats of her scan compared to others of her tribe, she was slightly put down by how her speed was slow. "How strong am I?" Assel asked curiously. "I can only scan one creature, battle gear, music, and location at a time," Naruto said, having scanned a location he rescued Assel from, as it was closer to the throne room and it allowed him more range of where he could go in the hive. Assel pouted a bit before taking out a music. "Hear a song of Mandiblor music," she said to him, holding it up for him as he scanned it. "Odu Bathax usually has a piece of battle gear on him," she said as they began walking with Naruto following her. "It was a pleasure to meet you, Queen Alexia," Naruto said as he left. "Valash," Alexia said as her guard stepped forward. "That boy, he's interesting. I find it odd word hasn't spread all over Harem of him. Other tribes may be trying to earn his favor," she said, as he certainly earned hers. "He saved her daughter and revealed a traitor." "My queen, should you not infect him?" Valash asked curiously. "No, that look in his eyes, he is not one to bend over so easily. He was respectful, but not overly so," Alexia said to her guard as she recognized Spirit. her hive connection while incredibly strong was not without its blind spots, and a spirited child like that one would be hard to control even if infecting him did work like it did on creatures. Alert the battlemasters when he leaves, allow him access to non-critical areas. His scans pose no threat to our security, but other chaotic players might. She said as Naruto explained how he and some humans did odd jobs for other tribes in exchange for scans. She did not like being the odd tribe out with no apparent human allies. Valash nodded. Alexia was curious as this human was a valuable resource that could improve or even give any tribe a slight edge in battle or other such conflicts. She was glad he seemed much similar to Rasnus, fighting to stop conflicts from arising. It made his actions much easier to understand. Her daughter had also taken an interest in him, and that seemed like it was for the best, as friendships always meant loyalty. He saved her now without knowing her. With Asel and her curious nature, she was sure Naruto would be won over, adding an extra line of protection for her daughter. So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for part 3. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and author pyrohelixdrago on FANFICTIONnet. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.